CHGO White Sox post-game show coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at Ecknermall23. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. It's a big week here at CHGO as we are approaching the first Chicago Bears game on Sunday, which is important because on Sunday you don't have to watch the White Sox anymore. There's other options besides the Chicago White Sox. You can always stay tuned to us. But you know, as it's been thrown out there before, whether it's Sox Machine, us, let us watch the White Sox for you so you don't have to. The White Sox lose 9-0, and I think it was clear that Nick Nastrini really didn't have his control. But what was more obvious, Vinny, is that the White Sox somehow, over the past 2 years, have never had a fly ball drill where they have called one another off. And I understand we talked about a lot about this last year, and we blamed Daryl Boston and maligned Daryl Boston's name about how he was a horrible outfield coach. But to Daryl Boston's credit, they still suck. So what's the issue? Have you ever seen them practice catching fly balls?
I have seen them practice catching fly balls. I've even seen them practice at spring training calling for fly balls, but for some reason that has not translated into the regular season. We thought it was all so funny back in the day when Luis Robert, then before he was even Luis Robert Jr., was going around and cutting everybody off and, stepping in front of Eloy and taking fly balls away from Leury Garcia. Ha, 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 look at this guy. But as time has gone on, it's becoming more and more clear that he might have a problem with command in center field out there. And it's nothing to do with his talent because, boy, we know he can go basically corner to corner and catch everything out there. We know that the range is one of the best in baseball out there in center field. He plays Gold Glove caliber defense out there. But over and over and over again, whether it's Andrew Benintendi or Tommy Pham or the departed Eloy Jimenez, the departed Leury Garcia, anybody that you stick out there in the corner outfield seems to have these run-ins with Luis Robert Jr. But of course, I'm burying the lead because the most egregious plays in the outfield happened away from Luis Robert Jr. in center. A couple of pop-ups down the left field line. The first of those two was the ugliest. Andrew Benintendi's elbow colliding with Miguel Vargas's face as Miguel Vargas did not get out of the way of Andrew Benintendi. That's the left fielder's ball out there, as probably was the case on the Robert plays earlier in the game. But listen, they need to work on hearing or talking or something because, like you said, Sean, these plays keep happening. And that one in, I don't even remember what inning that was. The second inning was probably the ugliest play of the ugliest game of the ugliest season for the White Sox. I think if you were to go ahead and put the 2024 White Sox in the dictionary and it said next to it, team with the most losses in a single season in modern history, there'd be a picture of that play right next to it, I think.
Damn straight. And it was, I think, pretty clear that Andrew Benintendi was yelling that he got the ball because shortstop Jacob Amaya was going for the ball too, and he peeled off. He heard something, and then the communication between Benintendi and Vargas didn't get through. So, like you said, Vinny, it's the outfielder's ball. Miguel Vargas knows this. He's been playing baseball for a majority of his life. You go as far as you can and assume that left fielder is going to call you off, and I'm assuming that Andrew Benintendi said it loud enough so Jacob Amaya heard him, so I'm assuming that also that message got through to Miguel Vargas. So he got charged with the error. got the worst of it, got an elbow to the face by Andrew Benintendi. If you've been seeing him hitting lately, you know that's a serious thing because that man's been yoked up this whole second half. So I hope that Miguel Vargas is fine. I hope that he is just got a shiner and it's all good and you can play for the rest of the year because him playing is going to be vital for the White Sox and Chris Getz going forward because people are going to look at Miguel Vargas and those youngsters they got from the Dodgers and say, hey, Chris, you traded 3 guys for this? This is how you're going to be doing your acquisitions? That's not good. So we need Miguel Vargas to play the way that he has played as a big-time prospect with the Dodgers a couple of years ago, and now he needs to play every day for the White Sox. So hopefully he doesn't go on the IL here. But the communication thing, Adam Hazley, a couple of years ago, injured Danny Mendick. It just continues to go on and on and on and doesn't get fixed. And that's frustrating.
I mean, there's been several instances with Robert. I mean, you brought it up, whether it's, Benintendi today, Pham earlier. There's been a lot of instances, even when Eloy and Robert would converge in left field and they just wouldn't talk to each other. I mean, this has always been a consistent issue. And I know that Miguel Vargas has played baseball his entire life, but I think we seriously have to examine if the White Sox make people dumber the second they walk into those doors. I don't care that Miguel Vargas has played baseball his entire life. I don't care that Jacob Amaya has played baseball their entire life. They look horrible. They look horrendous. They look probably worse than they ever had just because they're wearing a White Sox uniform. That play in the second inning with Benintendi and Vargas is probably the worst still of the 2024 White Sox. But can we think of one that's worse?
I mean, there was the one that wasn't even a play, Lenyn Sosa getting hit in the face with the throw from the catcher last week.
We also have in this game Jared Schuster just throwing it directly at Eloy Jimenez's head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, you can even use there's a lot from this game. Nick Nastrini sailing one through over Corey Lee's head, over Hunter Weddlestad's head, and then through like the very small camera well that no camera was in. Just a horrendous day in, day out excursion. And I think you said something that was very fitting. I know that they've lost 12 straight, but 13 just feels inevitable. So that's why I keep saying 13 straight. But it's because it does feel so predictable. Sports have kind of lost their edge because, again, we know what this team is going to be night in and night out. There have been 3 losing streaks of this team that have been double digits. They own the 3 longest losing streaks in Major League Baseball this year. Like, it's just them. The Pirates were at 10 games. They've cleared them now by 2 games. Going to be 3 tomorrow. Like, it's just so inevitable that this team will lose. And I don't know. It's not even a real baseball team. I said this earlier in the year that, like, it's so impossible for teams to lose more than 40% of their games. And it's probably impossible for the White Sox to win more than 25% of their games. It's baffling.
And the thing is, too, we're just talking. We're not even going to discuss that if they're going to lose the most games in the history of Major League Baseball. That's inevitable. They're going to lose that. They only have, 11 more to go, Vinny, to tie that record?
Correct.
And so we know in the next 22 games, they're not going 500. So that's already cashed. Now we're just looking for other things, like can they break the most run differential, the worst run differential in Major League Baseball history? I think it's negative 345 by the Boston Red Sox of 1932. They're at negative 310 right now, today. And they got one more game with Baltimore Orioles, who have scored 13 and 9 in the first 2 games.
Who have outscored them by 19 runs.
Yeah, and so then they're going to the Carmines on the weekend, and you think Boston's still looking for a playoff spot. They're going to have their game faces on. And then Cleveland after that, who's tied with the White Sox in the season series. You know they're going to be trying to win because they've got a tight AL Central race with both the Royals and the Twins. So you know that this record, that they might break both the winning record, the most losses in the season record, and most largest run differential in the whole MLB history, which has gone on for almost 90 plus years. That record has stand. That's it's so embarrassing, and you can't even explain it. And they don't, like somebody was talking about today. They were talking about Colton Cowser having only 43 walks this year, and DJ's like, well, that would lead the White Sox. That is pitiful that they don't have a player in 140 plus games that has 43 walks on the year on the current team.
Well, I mean, we're saying it without saying it, basically. But I mean, the way that you get to this point is that every facet is bad, right? And that's why tonight is kind of that encapsulation of what has happened, because they were bad all over. I mean, they walked 9 guys tonight. Nick Nastrini walked 6 of them. I mean, this game was over in the second inning. They couldn't hit. I think they had 6 hits all night. I think only 1 went for extra bases. They didn't score any runs. We went through all of the defense. You got frustration boiling over with Grady Sizemore and Andrew Benintendi getting tossed in the same at bat late in the game. And listen, some of those calls were not good, but it's baseball. That happens. And the idea is to stay in the game so you can try to win it again. But by that point, they're down by so many runs. It's not happening. And Sean, I think you talked about what I was talking to you guys before the show started, and I think certainly fans feel this way. But I mean, even us objective types are starting to feel this way. It's just getting grating because it's predictable. And when you go to watch sports, the entertainment value is in that you do not know what is going to happen. It is completely and utterly unscripted. But this team has played at a level all season long. Again, it's not to say that they're not trying to win. It's not to say that they're not going out and giving effort. They're undermatched severely night in and night out. It does not matter who they play. We were talking within the last several weeks where I get a text from Sean at the ballpark. We're going to try to go through the rest of the schedule and see where they might be able to win the requisite games. They're overmatched every night. I mean, they're going to play 6, 7 more games against a bad Angels team. Yep. Are you going to sit there on the night of each of the one of those games and say, tonight the Sox got this. Tonight I'm confident in the White Sox, and that's how the season is gone. Again, I'm not trying to say that these guys are mailing it in or these guys are phoning it in. They're professionals. Certainly Grady Sizemore cares. He's out there jawing with the home plate umpire tonight, like doing it in Baltimore, like he's Earl Weaver, right? But they have not been put in a position to win really any given day that ends in a Y, and it has become fait accompli that they are going to lose and that they're going to get this record, and that is depressing as not even a fan of this team, but a fan of sports, that the entertainment value has completely been sapped out of it by the fact that you basically know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's not even any intrigue or mystery. Ooh, that last series with Detroit, will they break the record? No, it's already cashed. They're going to be setting a new record that's never going to be broken in the history of baseball, ever. Because this was so hard to break in itself. And that was a first-year team with the Mets in expansion in 1962, and they're going to obliterate that record.
They cannot get the record, the all-time, pre-1900 record. The Cleveland Spiders of 1899 lost 133. Sox lose out and set a new American League baseball Major League record for the most consecutive losses. The worst they can do is 131.
I don't think Cleveland
31 and 131, baby. 100 games under.
I think the Cleveland Spiders are just a baseball team. I don't think they're a major league. Yeah, they're not even a major league baseball team. They're not a major league MLB team. So I mean, it's not even an MLB record. Yeah, I mean, this is the real MLB record.
The American League wasn't until 1901, right?
Yeah, well, right. Major League Baseball wasn't until 1901. It's when they combined forces. But yeah, I mean, it truly is unpredictable. There was no point during the offseason, and we took 5 days a week to examine this team to see how bad they were. There was at no point that I thought this team would be this pathetic. And
how could you predict? How could anyone think something like this would be possible?
I don't know.
There's not a person, not
I don't know.
One person. Earlier we had somebody, I think it was Minidar, a couple shows before. It's like, yeah, I predicted them to only win 45 games. They're not going to get close to 45 games.
They'd have to win 14. Yeah. They'd have to go 14-8 the rest of the way.
The worst thing you could think about, you didn't think the White Sox were going to be this bad. It's just, I'm actually having a great time. As I said before, this is going to be the worst season in baseball history. We'll all remember it. Vinny will be on the 30 for 30, recalling every time he went to the game. It's like, man, that was tough. And we'll be talking in the offseason about all the White Sox that they've played this year, and I'll be like, who? They had that guy on the team?
That Sporkle quiz is going to take a full week of shows.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait for that.
They're up over 60.
That's it?
That's a franchise record.
I honestly, you could have said 70. You could have said they had the whole everyone from spring training outside of Jesse Chavez, and I would have believed you. We're going to take a break here. Ami Josh saying, haven't seen Moncada all year. Well, guess what? He might be back. Also, he had a great 11 games. I think he's probably still a top 12 player for the White Sox this year. Is he?
That is very true.
I think he's 11th.
I think he's the number one position player.
I think he's the 11th player.
Luis Robert Jr. has outplayed him negatively to fall behind him. All right, we'll take a break. We'll update you on the White Sox best 22-game streak and Yoan Moncada. But Herb, tell them about Game Time.
Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through tickets, 1,000 of tickets. I and my fiance went to Back to the Future, the musical, a couple weeks ago, and of course, I purchased those seats on Game Time because I know that I'm going to get the lowest price guaranteed with their Game Time guarantee, which states that if you find a lower price in section and row, then Game Time will send you 110% of that difference, just like I got when I went down to Atlanta a couple years ago. A couple other features I like about Game Time is they're all in pricing. Toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Also, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy it. And Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Woo.
Woo. Thank you. Look at you.
It's new.
And months behind saying plenty of seats at the Sox game, which means you're going to get a great deal at Game Time. Maybe you've never seen Sit Scout seats. Probably get them for $12.
Hey, they're doing a halfway to St. Patrick's Day thing next week. Go to Game Time and get you some inexpensive seats and have a great time at the ballpark, no matter what, if the team is doing well or bad.
And hey, if I know anything about Irish culture, it means drinking. And if you're going to be drinking, check out Z-Biotics. It's a game-changing product that we use before night out with drinks. It's called Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. After a night with drinks, we don't bounce back like we used to. Aging happens, folks. Don't try to chase it.
Speak for yourself, Sean.
Oh, okay. We can either have a great night or a great next day, but that is until we found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. It is the surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking with Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, and it was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough morning after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. In this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. And just to remember to take Z-Biotics before your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and feel your best tomorrow. So go check out this great product, whether it's for vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions. There is so much going on. And to get the most out of your summer, stock up on pre-alcohol. Now, go to zbiotics.com/CHGO Sox to get 15% off your first order when you use CHGO SOX at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed by 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied with your reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/CHGOSOX and use code CHGOSOX at checkout for 15% off. Thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And we obviously know that, this team could lead to certain beverages being consumed.
I've got your top 12, by the way.
Oh, I was going to read that too. Okay.
Oh.
Do you want to do it?
This is exciting stuff.
It's great. So, it's a great list of killers.
This is by Baseball Reference War, which I believe loves defense even more than Fangraphs. But Yoan Moncada is 12th.
Yes.
He's their second best position player this year. Luis Robert Jr. Is 8th on the team. Luis Robert Jr. trails the likes of number 1 best player on the White Sox this year, no longer on the White Sox, Eric Fetty, Garrett Crochet, Jonathan Cannon. The 4th best player on the White Sox this year is Chris Flexen. Davis Martin, who I think has pitched in like 5 games, is the 5th. Jared Schuster, Their mop-up reliever is their 6th. Justin Anderson, 7. We said Robert. Kopech no longer on the team. He's 9. Chad Kuhl is the 10th best White Sox. You laugh at that. The 11th best White Sox, so one ahead of Yoan Moncada, who's only played 11 games. That would be someone who has played in all of 3 games this year.
What, a total of 4 innings now after today?
3 games. Matt Foster is the 11th best player on the 2024 Chicago White Sox.
Chris Flexen, who is 4th with his 2-14 record.
Correct.
I wonder where Michael Soroka, who hasn't won a game, sits war-wise. Maybe Rock Soroka can come back and jolt this team. He's at .3 WAR too, so he's tied with Chad Kuhl and Yoan Moncada and Matt Foster. So we just need a little Rock Soroka, like one good Rock Soroka outing to bump him up.
Nickname though? Nickname?
Huh?
A nickname for Michael Soroka?
Yeah.
Rock?
Baseball reference. Nicknames, Rock.
Oof,
That's what they call him.
He didn't earn that one.
They call him Michael Soroka. He is kind of a rock. He sinks just
straight to the bottom.
Right to the bottom. We talked about the 22 games that are ahead for the Chicago White Sox, and we talked a little bit about this pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
The best 20-game stretch for the White Sox. It is also the best 22-game stretch. It is from the 26th of April to May 19th. They were 11-11, and you could either take April 26th to May 19th, April 25th to May 18th, April 24th to May 17th, or April 23rd to May 15th. They were 11-11 in all 22 of those games. So I think it was just really back and forth, win-loss, 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 win-loss. So the Tommy Pham effect was real. The only time they had anything near a 500 22 games was June 13th to July 6th. They went 9-13. So that's their second, I guess, third best.
Because all the rest are tied for first, right?
Right. Well, 11-11, and they also had a couple 10-12 streaks.
Okay.
So, like, the best you could hope for is like a 9-13 stretch over this next, couple of games, and what that would put you at 40 and they break the record, 40 and 122.
They need to win those. They need that 11-11 streak to tie the worst record.
Yeah, they're 10 losses away from matching, or I'm sorry, they're 11 losses away from matching the record. So in order to not have the record, they would only be able to lose 10 games the rest of the way. That means they would need to go 12-10 to avoid the record.
Something they haven't done this year in 22 games.
You brought up Colton Cowser would lead the White Sox in home runs. Paul DeJong
walks.
Walks, right. Paul DeJong, who's on the Royals, still leads the White Sox.
Correct.
In home runs as well. Corey with a super chat. Thank you, Corey, for the $10 super chat. He says, I know everyone's tired of hearing about it. I don't think we've actually hammered home this point enough, Corey, so thanks for the super chat. About not being able to pick at the top of the draft after the worst season in modern baseball, but that's the whole point of the draft. It's so damn frustrating. I mean, they weren't trying to be this bad.
No.
They weren't trying to tank. They weren't trying to avoid anything in the draft or trying to, tank to get the best pick in the draft. Unfortunately, they spend enough money and are a part of those teams that can get blocked out from having back-to-back things. But I think the thing that's funniest, they had the 4th pick or 5th pick?
Fifth
pick, right? They went from 6th to 5th. So that's what kept them from getting the 10th pick, was moving from 6th place to 5th place. That is apparently winning the lottery. Like, that definitely needs to change. Like, I would say if you're like the Nationals and you get the first pick, I mean, you can't get it in back-to-back years. I understand that. And if the White Sox, they spend a certain amount of money, sure. But, like, they're only picking 10th because they went from 6th to 5th. And that just feels real crappy, especially with how bad this team is, because you could possibly just lightning bolt this franchise, or at least give them a position player who could be a lightning bolt. And now they just hope that someone at 10 falls to them.
And the thing is, like, a team like the Cleveland Guardians won the draft this past year and got the number 1 pick. And they weren't even that bad last year for a team like that. And to get the actual win of the lottery, the White Sox won in the lottery because you get the top 6 picks. You are actually a lottery pick. If they would have been the 7th pick, they would have been eligible to be a team this year that got the number 1 pick, or at least the best chance to get the number 1 pick. So, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's like you're just terrible this year, and you can't improve quickly. I mean, you can get the 10th best player in the draft next year, and hopefully, as Vinny always says, it's a crapshoot, and you got the best player. But, we've seen the White Sox in their drafting history and then their development history as far as position players. Good luck.
I mean, I think at least this point is not something the White Sox had control over, right? Everything that has gone wrong for the White Sox this year, basically, you can point as being their fault. They're the ones who put this roster together. They're the ones who have played so poorly. This is something completely out of their control. And so it just puts the onus on them to, like you said, draft well, develop well, and make it so that the 10th pick in the 2025 draft is one of those picks that's just as good as any other one.
And we talked about it in the offseason. They didn't bring up the retool, revamp, rebuild words. They were like, new clubhouse, better defense, we're going to be better. None of that stuff worked. And this is I don't even know if it's a rebuild. It can't say it's a rebuild because you're worse.
It sure is.
You're worse than the team that you tried to not be last year. I don't know how you rebuild something that is crumbled to the ground. The foundation is gone. Like, it's not even they didn't even start with the original foundation of the house. They need to build up. So to call it a rebuild, I know that that's what they want it to be, but there's no concrete laid yet. They need some of that.
I mean, they tore it all the way down.
They did.
That's why. And they might not even be done tearing it all the way down, because Luis Robert Jr., Garrett Crochet, we're going to be talking about those guys all offseason long in terms of whether they might or might not get traded. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be worse next year, because this is about to be the worst team anyone alive has ever seen. But they are continuing to tear down and bring in young players rather than getting on the upswing and going after free agents or anything like that.
It's a great point by Edward. Said if they lose the next 12 games, they'll break the modern MLB record of consecutive losses and most losses in a season simultaneously. That would be amazing.
Would it?
Yeah, there'll be 24 losses in a row, and then would lose more games than any other team has lost in MLB modern day history.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
I'd be amazed.
I mean, it would be amazed. I'd be stunned, shocked, and
I will be
insane.
happy as hell. We'll have a great show that day too.
Our dear, dear, dear friend Bob Nightingale has said that it's expected that the White Sox will be trading Garrett Crochet this offseason. So we look at the top 12 players, and Eric Fetty's gone with his 4.3 WAR, and Garrett Crochet's gone with his 3.9 WAR. We saw after Chris Sale was traded in 2016, the 2017 team went 67 and 95, and then in 2018 it was even worse, 62 and 100. Can next year's team actually be worse
than this team?
Yes.
I mean, I suppose the possibility exists, but if you're going to tell me that they're going to lose 120 games in back-to-back seasons, that would be very difficult to believe.
I mean, I looked up teams to lose 100 games back-to-back, and there were some teams that went 3 straight. I think there were some Oriole teams and
recent Orioles and recent Astros teams too, I think, right?
None of them lost 110, I don't think, or none of them even lost 120.
It's really hard to do. I mean, we talked about it last year. The whole Hawk adage of you don't win 60, you don't lose 60 is what you do with the rest of the 42. The White Sox, the 42 is what we're trying to get to on the wins, and the losses are already going to be there because, man, we are just decimated. And it's going to be very hard for the 2025 team to match this team, but I guarantee they're going to try.
Yeah.
If they're trading Garrett Crochet and maybe Luis Robert, who's going to step up? I mean, before this start, I was like, maybe Nick Nastrini can be 4th, 5th starter next year. But turn right back into Nick Nastrini from earlier in the year. Well, 6 walks.
But that was the thing. His
sliders every
the first inning wasn't even the walks.
It was getting crushed by sliders.
He just was giving up hits after hits.
4 hits in the first inning.
I mean, he threw 60 pitches in the second inning. We saw bad. Just real quick before we hit a break, the 2018 team has always been, for most people, because most people were alive in 2018 and not 1970. But most White Sox fans, I feel like they think that 2018 team is the worst in White Sox history. Obviously, that was before the 2024 season happened. But just to compare, and then we'll take a break, the most the 2018 team was back in the division, 29 games. The White Sox are, 49 and a half and counting. The most time shut out, the 2018 team, 12. 16 now for the 2024 team and counting. And then also the longest losing streak, which I thought was funny that you guys both guessed right in the middle, or the even number above it. Longest losing streak for the 2018 team, 8. Obviously for this team, 21. But you can also have the 14 game or the 13 game that's going to happen tomorrow.
You keep doing that.
It's going to. Do you want to say the White Sox are winning tomorrow?
Hey, man, I am not telling people what to do, but my fiance and I made a couple dollars on the White Sox losing the last couple days. Yes. I like to wait. Like the first game yesterday when the White Sox got out to a 2-0 lead, I was like, all right, improved. Let's go. And then the money line money line improved for the Orioles. Or you can just go with the run line, 1.5. The White Sox not keep it within 1.5 of these games. So, if you are into investing, please go against the White Sox.
And hey, I've seen now that sports betting has become legal, Americans have invested less and have just gambled more. So if you want to invest, go gamble.
White Sox are probably as good as any investment you got out there.
It's up there with the. Let's take a while and let's see if I can name what's the big
company.
S&P 500.
S&P.
That's a thing.
Can you invest in that? Isn't that like
It's a list of companies. Yeah,
it's like the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones.
Yeah, maybe the Dow Jones. Who knows? We're gonna take a break. I put on these shades because we love our friends over at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're an independent sunglasses company offering you a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them a perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. And hey, maybe you're like Corey Hart, all indoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style.
Huh? He's always talking about that Brewers.
The Brewer?
Yeah. Corey Hart from the Brewers?
Or was it Corey Haim?
No, you're right. You're talking about the sunglasses at night guy, but I always think about the Brewer.
I have a signed autograph somewhere by the Brewer, not by sunglasses at night guy.
That's just a very random signing.
Well, so I went to like a work outing with my mom, and they went up to Milwaukee for some reason. And I guess I don't know.
He was just there.
Corey Hart was there.
Corey Hart was there. But it was I was 2007 when Corey Hart was playing.
Yeah.
All-star Corey Hart. So it was whoa, Corey Hart and Ryan Braun and Pierce Fielder and Bill Hall.
Jenkins.
Yeah, Geoff Jenkins and Ben Sheets maybe. and Giovanni Gallardo and then CeCe came. But anyways, they probably have a style in your favorite team's color. We love black on this podcast. Good guys wear black. So go check out all the black shades that they have over at Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized shades. That's code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. These shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Today was a great day to take the more on Cade Povich's strikeout prop. If you were making a Prize Pick entry, they are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And most importantly, starting on Thursday, there's a game on Friday, and then there's a ton of games on Sunday, and even one on Monday. The NFL is back, so there's no better way to get involved or better time to get involved with Prize Picks than right now. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. And one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. So don't miss out on this deal on Prize Picks because when it's gone, because it's gone when September ends. So go check out our friends at Prize Pick. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CHGO to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CHGO on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. I didn't give a shout out to Sarah, our producer. Sarah is producing us. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button.
Hi.
For Sarah. Hello, Sarah. If you could scroll up, Sarah, speaking of our producer. Blank name throwing out, why did they have Iriarte pitch out of the bullpen? He's been a starter the entire year. Why do they have to make perplexing decisions every time? I think to speak to that, they needed him to pitch because when he was added to the roster, he already had his days of rest as a starter. So I don't know why they didn't include him in the rotation. Maybe you could add some thoughts to that.
I can.
But I know Iriarte it wasn't like a rest thing. It wasn't like they were waiting for him to rest, because once he joined the major league roster, I think he was already on his normal 5 days of rest. So what did our guy Brian Bannister have to say about what they're looking for with Iriarte at the major league level?
Yeah, so I mean, Jairo Iriarte is the Sox 5th prospect. He's really kind of shot up the rankings since they got him in the Cease trade back in March. He's been a starter all year, but they brought him up when the rosters expanded on Sunday to be, now that they're at 28 men, and he's here to pitch out of the bullpen. He's not going to start, and that is by design. Brian Bannister spoke earlier this summer in talking about being in favor of bringing young pitchers up to the major leagues at the end of the season and having them pitch out of the bullpen. Yeah, they're starting pitchers, but he wants to get them a little bit of a taste. He doesn't want to throw them necessarily into the deep end of the pool when they've obviously been working as starting pitchers and building up those innings all year long. Give them a little bit, of an end of season reward. They brought Iriarte up from Double-A, so obviously he's jumping a couple levels here. And they're just going to have him work as a one-inning reliever. I don't think he's even here to be a mop-up guy or to be a long man. He's here to just get teeny little bites of the apple, and I think that they think that that's good experience for him as he likely starts at AAA next year. I don't think the expectation is that he will be part of the big league roster come opening day. Obviously, a lot of things can happen between now and then, but it's just to get him a little bit of experience. And I guess, you can agree or disagree, but the idea is that the organization is doing this on purpose. It is not Grady Sizemore or whoever else just saying, all right, let's throw him out there today because we need somebody to fill these innings by Nastrini. This is definitely what they envisioned for him when they made that promotion on Sunday.
Is it more like rest versus rust? They believe that your arm probably can be more affected by just sitting out. He has 126 innings this year already in Double-A. Yes. And so they're probably thinking, okay, innings will be good in the majors. Like you said, give him that taste. And then also get the innings base up so we're not rusting.
He doesn't stop.
Away. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That's a Bannister thing, too, across the board. That's not necessarily just applicable in this very specific situation, but just really everywhere with the pitching at the end of the year. He keeps talking about how he does not want guys to stop. He does not want to have them kind of lose everything that they've built up to, right? And so I think whether it's Iriarte in this specific situation or Garrett Crochet and the fact that he keeps going, I don't think that Bannister wants to see any of these guys, call it a day and have a pat on the back. All right, you hit the number we wanted you to hit. He wants to see them keep going because the whole point of this is to get guys that last for an entire season. So you don't and beyond if your team is where you want it to be, right? You want them to be able to pitch all the way through the end of October. So this is Bannister's philosophies in action here at the end of the season.
Would you like to see him maybe as an opener at all? Do you feel like there's any? I mean, that he's going to get. You're going to use him in a certain day. Would you like to see him still have that idea of, opening a game and having that routine? Does that matter at all?
I mean, I think it matters to him and how he goes about pitching, because I think in his whole professional career, he's pretty much been a starter. And that routine of getting ready for a game will probably be important to him to get his arm loose. He hasn't really done relieving stuff. I mean, I think he finished the game this year, but just so he can get in the routine of, okay, today I'm going to go out there and pitch, whether it's going to come in the 5th inning like he did today, I think it was the 5th or 6th inning, or start as an opener. I don't care where the innings come from, as they're going to put him out there. And I actually would prefer if you do it as an opener, because you get to see their best and you get to challenge Jairo Iriarte and say, you've been a guy that's struck out a lot, but you've also walked a lot. These are the best hitters in that lineup. Can you get them out? Yep. If they're going for an inning, might as well face the best.
Right, and give him one time through the order, and if you have to take him out because he can't find the strike zone like today, and obviously Baltimore's a very good team at determining what is a strike and what is not a strike. If he has a good inning, keep him going, and if he's able to get through the second, keep him going. But if he hits a certain number of pitches, that's when you take him out. I mean, I don't mind it.
It was a little wild today, but I liked his last batter he faced versus Colton Cowser. I was like, challenge him, and he challenged him with a high fastball. Cowser swung right through it. It was a little outside the zone. That's what I want. I want him to just battle, not try to be nibbling and stuff. That's kind of what Nastrini did. He got hit in that first inning, and then he was like nibbling everywhere. And of course, Eloy Jimenez tried to get him out of the inning, and the White Sox like, no, we're gonna run into each other. Sorry, Nick Nastrini.
Let's get rid of our third baseman.
Yeah,
and replace him with Brooks Baldwin as a wrist injury. Jordan Lazowski did note too, as there was one clip of Iriarte's slider that was
filthy,
insane and went to the backstop. Henderson didn't swing at it. But like Nastrini, obviously Nastrini wasn't a finished product when he came to the major leagues, went down to the minor leagues, fixed some mechanical stuff. Jordan notes that Iriarte's arm angle is a little bit long. I wonder too, just with guys that have this control issue, especially a guy that is normally a starter coming out of the bullpen, he was pitching out of the windup for the most part. Iriarte was, does the motion clean up a little bit if he's going out from the stretch, and also just the arm angles a little bit, or the arm actions a little bit long. Is he able to repeat it a little bit more if they shorten that up? So, just looking at ways that Iriarte can develop, obviously throwing more strikes will help. But is there something mechanically that they can adjust? Because the sinker looks pretty damn good, 95 miles per hour. The changeup looks pretty good. He trusted that a decent amount. And then that sweeper, although it wasn't a strike, it was pretty
filthy.
It was nasty at 84 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an interesting arm. And I think that's good for the Sox because there's not a lot interesting for the team. Even Nastrini, I know Nastrini has been, especially going into the year, he was thought of as a top prospect. I'm kind of coming off him a little bit. I don't know what his actual role will be. And when we're looking at next year's rotation, I think you can lock in Cannon, probably lock in Martin. You could probably lock in Thorpe because he'll likely be back and healthy. Maybe Iriarte.
There's going to be a lot of names.
Major league roster.
There's going to be a lot of names in the mix.
I think Iriarte is more likely to be in the rotation than Nastrini is.
And I'm sure
I think that's some pretty recency bias right there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm sure that
I don't know.
Personally.
I know Chris Flexen is still eligible
We're not. Chris Flexen should be on this team.
He should, but he's still on the team. That type of player will be in the rotation next year. Either it's him, Chris Flexen, or a Chris Flexen-like on the team. I don't think they can find an Eric Fetty type. There's not another pitcher in the KBO that's pitching like Eric Fetty, and you can get a rental out of him. That'll be great. But I think that type of pitcher, they won't go with like 5 straight young first or second year players.
Do you think Iriarte starts in the majors?
I would say no, just because he's coming up from AA. I would imagine they would want to get him some time at AAA, but I don't know. A guy can have a really good offseason. A guy can impress the hell out of Bannister and Katz with what he does this winter and show up to spring training, and all of a sudden we got to put this guy on the team, right? Nastrini would have been that guy had he not gotten sick, right? He would have been on that a part of that opening day rotation. It ended up, being a little different, but I don't think you can count out Nastrini. He'll be in that mix too. There'll be a few names in there. Also, a guy you can probably lock in is Davis Martin.
Yeah.
For what he's been doing. So, but again, we use lock pretty loosely. I think, what if Jonathan Cannon is terrible in spring training? Well, and then they could just pick a different guy.
They're baseball pitchers. I mean, it's not like any of these guys are locks to be healthy. I mean,
right.
we just know,
or be healthy past the beginning of April, right? So,
sure.
I mean, you're going to see all these guys next year in some capacity. But I think they have time to figure out who the 5 best or the 4 or 5 that they want to make sure they keep and have here in 2-3 years are going to be. They've got those 2 or 3 years to figure that out.
And I know Sean Burke's been struggling since he's come back, but I think that guy might be a candidate for a 5th starter or a guy that can be in the rotation.
I think he's more of a bullpen guy. Everything that we've seen about him, especially with his size, it doesn't seem like he's going to end up being direct to the plate enough. I don't think he's going to throw enough strikes.
I think they're sending him to the AFL, right? I believe I heard something about that.
No, it was James Fox tweeted Grant Taylor, and was that the other name? I don't think it's Sean Burke.
It was somebody else.
Jacob Burke? Was he the other Burke?
Maybe.
Yeah, He also mentioned that your guy Riku could possibly be an AFL guy.
Goddamn right.
Because now he's up at AA.
Got 2 hits today.
You brought it up. Grant Taylor and Sean Burke. Wow, look at you. I don't know. Burke has the strikeout numbers. But the biggest thing is just that we know, going back to our guy John Rauch, taller guys, it's tough to repeat those mechanics. I wonder if he's in the stretch, if it's easier to repeat those. He's made 18 starts this year, but again, 12.7 strikeout per 9 to 5.5 walks per 9 seems like Nick Nastrini all over again. I mean, I would just like a guy who can. I mean, especially if we're going to 6 innings next year, you have to throw 6 innings as a starter.
I mean, I don't think
Sean Burke. I don't think he's the guy.
I would love if they instituted that quickly, but I don't know if it's going to be next year. That'd be great.
One guy that is in Charlotte that won't be there for long, we think, hit a home run today. He also added on a single, Yoan Moncada. We hope that Moncada can add on to his WAR total, because if he plays like 20 total games and is the 5th best White Sox, that would be hilarious. But do we expect Moncada at all to be in a White Sox uniform? Vargas possibly going to the IL opens up a spot.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Vargas. I certainly wouldn't expect him to play tomorrow, but Moncada, it seems like for quite some time now, over a month,
yes,
they have been ready for him to come back, and they've been waiting for him to tell them that he feels comfortable coming back. And listen, I'm not going to criticize the player for going out on the field and not being confident that he's going to continue to be healthy. You got to be able to trust your body in order to play, especially at this level, and especially when you got your teammates counting on you. But from the White Sox perspective, it seems that they've been ready to bring him back for some time now. If he's in there playing games in Charlotte and he feels confident in his body and he feels like he's going to go out there and not re-injure himself right away again, I would expect him to be back before the end of the season. Again, from a long-term organization standpoint, it means nothing, right? He's not going to be on this team next year. I can tell you, not reporting, but just through sheer logic, that they're not going to pick up that option for next year. And it doesn't really mean anything to them to give him at bats over anybody who might be a part of this in the long term. But he's probably better than anybody that they've got on that infield right now. And if they're going to try to win some games and avoid tumbling further into the worst of all time status, then I would expect to see him back before the end of the year. Yeah, it sure seems like it, unless we hear something where he finishes up this little rehab run here and they go, yeah, he's not feeling it, or yeah, he's managed to hit a home run or get some hits down in Charlotte, but he's not feeling like the player that he wants to be, and he doesn't want to come back. He's not confident in being coming back. But from the team's perspective, I'd imagine they'd welcome him back.
And I think, too, that even if, and to your point, Vinny, even if Yoan Moncada played this whole year, firstly, he would have been traded, and secondly, they'd probably be a slightly better team. But even if he had played to a great level, like the 2019 or 2021 Yoan Moncada, that option would have never been picked up for next year, ever, ever, ever. They were like, yeah, why would we need a above-average third baseman on a really bad team that's going to be making $25 million on his last year? Good. We're good on that. Bye, Yoan. So I'm surprised that they're still having him rehab, but Vinny just explained why, and the player doesn't feel the way he needs to feel. I would prefer the White Sox to shut him down because they know they're not going to play him, but you probably can't. There's probably something in the PA or the CBA that says, the player wants to play, he can play. You can't just be shutting people down just because you don't want to play him on your team. But with this maybe possible operation where Miguel Vargas goes on the IL, you probably have to call up Yoan Moncada to finish off these 22 games and see what he has. I mean, I'll be great to see him. I'm going to the game, I think, one more time just to tip my cap and say, hey, man, you gave it your best. You were injured all the time, but I hope you enjoy the next year's team, and you're going to be great as any White Sox.
I mean, you are going to be the only person there, so, whatever you say to him, he'll hear.
Oh, yeah. It's the White Sox versus Oakland on a Saturday afternoon or night. Great times.
Rehab assignments last 20 days for non-pitchers. That would place his
max.
That would replace his max at September 15th. I don't know what they would do with that, but if he's not feeling comfortable after these 5 games, he's hitting 107-mile-per-hour homer. He's got an average exit velocity, I think, of like 94 to 95. He seems healthy. I really do not understand why Yoan Moncada is in AAA right now.
If you're Yoan Moncada, you badly want to get back and play some major league games before the end of the season because you need a job next year. And I mean, the ship might have already sailed on a major league contract for him at this point, but I would think that you would want to do everything in your power to try to make sure that you can get a major league contract ahead of next year.
If he comes back and let's just say 20 games, he has like 31 games of a 120 OPS plus.
Yeah, that would be a big deal.
I think he gets a major league contract.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
That would
yeah, no, for sure.
If he doesn't play the rest of the year, would you give him a major league contract if he doesn't play the rest of this year?
No. I would not.
You have no confidence in whether he's going to be able to play for you or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, like a major league deal could just be the Paul DeJong deal. He's better than Paul DeJong was.
But would he
year.
Accept it?
It's either you don't accept a major league deal or you accept a minor league deal.
Paul DeJong played more than 11 games this season. Paul DeJong played more than 11 games last season.
Right, right. But I mean, I think that they took a shot on Chris Flexen on a major league deal at $1.5 million. Like, I think a major league deal will happen for Moncada. I don't know.
It's going to be really hard for a major league team to say, hey, we're either competing or we're just a mediocre team. We need a third baseman / second baseman on our team and give him $6 to $8 million.
I just said $1.5 million. Like, a major league deal doesn't have to be $6 to $8 million. That's a guy worth one word.
Right. I'm just saying. Remember how long it took for Tim Anderson to get signed this past year, and that's and Moncada's injury history is actually greater than TA's. Obviously, Moncada doesn't have the burden of having put up the sort of numbers that TA did last year, but I don't know. I would think that those two situations would be pretty comparable.
And I think he'll be like kind of insulted, like $1 million. He shouldn't be, but he's coming from real money, $24 million this year, to making $1 million.
He's got a buyout to make it,
sick.
A little nicer of a pillow to land on. I think he'll get a major league deal. I don't know if he'll get paid $8 million or whatever exactly, but I think he'll get some team, especially with this the current playoff situation. Like I think some team is going to look at their third baseman situation and just be like, this is the best thing on the out there. Like I don't know.
The Chicago White Sox.
The Chicago White Sox. I thought a team that maybe would compete, but hey, maybe
for
it's
$1 million.
Chicago White Sox.
Back.
Toronto's still going to have the band together. Who's their third baseman? Addison Barger. Would you rather take Addison Barger or Yoan Moncada?
That team's been awful.
I don't know who that is, but Addison Barger probably. He makes probably league minimum.
209 average, 246 on base percentage, slugging percentage of 392. You're saying league minimum. I mean, what, you don't think Moncada is going to get a major league deal? That's under
no.
That
minimum. Was a different thing. He said if he doesn't play this year, finish off the year, I don't think he'll get a major league contract. He comes back and he's Yoan Moncada from the beginning of this year. I think teams like, okay, that was a huge drop in the middle, the 11 games in the front and the 22 in the back. But for the most part, he's healthy, and he missed a large amount of time, and that's his problem, missing games. Yeah, I think he'll get a contract from somebody if he plays these games. If he doesn't show that he can be healthy, teams will be like, what's wrong with you? Why couldn't you come back from an injury that was only supposed to sideline you from 2 months, and you sat out for 5?
So we saw something that maybe would explain why he might be sitting out, and Daryl Van Schouwen asked Eloy Jimenez before Monday's game about, what's it been like being away from the worst team in baseball history. And there was some pushback on social media, and I think just any White Sox player would feel this way. I think any White Sox player would be relieved to be out of Chicago. I think Moncada will feel that way eventually, but I'm assuming Daryl asked him, what's it been like being in Baltimore? I don't even think it's been anything I don't think it was anything absurd. And Eloy said, I'm not going to lie, playing meaningful games in September is going to be fun. I think if you ask somebody who was shot consecutively every single day from point blank range by a BB gun in the crotch for 4 straight months, and then one day that finally stopped at no choice or no thought of the person who was getting shot, I think that they would say something similar. Like, well,
also, it doesn't even have to be the White Sox.
Yeah.
A baseball player going from a last place team to a team that could win the World Series is always going to be met with positivity. Well, they're in it to win it.
I think you're gonna see like a boost from some of these players. Like I think Crochet will probably see a little bit of a boost too once he's traded. I think Robert will see a boost. Eloy hasn't seen the home run boost, but he's seen a boost. Moncada will probably have the weight of $75 million lifted off of him, and he could just go play third base. Like, I don't know. A lot of this, and you go look at Kopech as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot of these players that just, I feel like, cannot lock in and probably have no will to lock in for a team this bad. I would not blame Moncada if he feels fully healthy and is hitting 107 mile per hour homers in Charlotte and is saying, I don't want to play for this team. Because who would?
I understand.
He'll probably get hurt trying to field the fly ball.
Yeah, and my complaint is the White Sox whole organization is kind of like bad and toxic. And so I can see why a player, no matter what, getting away from this team, which is going to be the worst team in baseball history, would be like, yeah, it'll be great. But as Vinny said, even if it wasn't the White Sox, finally playing games in September would be awesome. Games that mean something with a little meat to it. And I know the fans are saying, well, you could have played some meaningful games in September if you did well or if you were healthy. And that's not the point. Like, the point is Eloy is just answering the question that Darryl posed to him. And it's great that he gets to go out there. There's no pressure on him because he's the 7th, 8th, 9th most important position player on that team. And so all he has to do is hit the singles that he keeps on doing and occasionally hit one over the fence at Coors Field. And he'll be fine. He'll be playing in those games in the postseason for the Baltimore Orioles. I'm sure he's fine with it. But I think the White Sox, yeah, like you're saying, it's just a symptom of the organization. Once you get off the organization, there's a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, man. Like, there's so many players that have left the White Sox afterwards. Like, man, facilities are this goes wrong with that. This team does a much better job at doing this, that, and the other than the White Sox. And so I'm sure that he feels that is a sense of relief of playing for Angelo's team, which is a weird thing to say because
it's not an Angelo's team.
Not anymore, it ain't.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. He's dearly departed.
Dead.
Well, they got a new owner.
Oh, rest in peace, Peter Angelos. Yeah. But, yeah, new owner out there in Baltimore instead of playing for Jerry Reinsdorf own team.
Who's the David Rubenstein has taken over?
My guy,
a Baltimore native. Is he? Go way back.
Oh, like on the
ballpark. All right. Final thing here. We're gonna wrap up 9-0 loss for the White Sox. 109th on the season. We'll be back tomorrow for more post-game coverage of Game 3 in the final of this series. Sarah, if you want to flash the latest pictures we've seen from the 78. Never mind. It's okay. Let's just end the show. The 78 has some sod on it. We'll talk about that tomorrow. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox post-game show. That is CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. And I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. And to Michael Leroy saying, y'all must be assuming Jerry will be around in 2029. The man has a goal to live till 100, and that would at least be 2033. So 2029... we still got 4 years after that. So we'll talk to you tomorrow for the wrap-up of the Orioles and White Sox series.
We all silly like the mayor.